I'm William Byrnes, the Associate Dean of Thomas Jefferson School of Law, located in San Diego, California. Today I'm going to share with you a story about the development of distance education for law, in particular for the ever so exciting topic of international taxation and financial services. So my social biography starts in the city, perhaps the greatest city in the United States, New Orleans, in the great state of Louisiana. New Orleans is the perfect place for somebody who's the pioneer of distance education to come from. Now, we're not the Silicon Valley where the technology is, and we're not New York where the finance is, but New Orleans has its own very special aspect about it. It's where creativity comes from in the United States. Not only have we produced the best food, the best jazz, but we just dress better than most people. I found myself for part of my law school studies in the city of Amsterdam. In fact, 3 years. Now, why Amsterdam? Well, it's very similar to New Orleans. They have good music. Can't talk about the food that much, and their dress certainly in the same. And frankly, between hot and cold, I think I'd choose the swamp heat over the ice of the canals. But the people are more or less friendly like New Orleans people once you get to know Dutch. In Amsterdam, I arrived and immediately went to what is called Vught. It's a cloister of nuns, where they teach people to speak Dutch in about 2 to 3 weeks, so that I could attend University of Amsterdam and study some rather, let's just say, interesting tax courses. I moved to South Africa, where I was fortunate enough to land a 3-year stagiaire as an international tax attorney and undertake my training, followed by Coopers & Lybrand, the international audit firm, now known as PwC. At Coopers & Lybrand, I rose to the position of Associate Director of International Taxation. Unfortunately, I also rose to the top of a mountain in a country called Lesotho, where I learned that I'm not the skier that I thought I was, and ended up 6 months in the hospital. 6 months in the hospital, not perhaps the best way to spend one's vacation time, brought me to distance education. Well, spending 6 months in the hospital is perhaps one of the more boring experiences, probably the same as prison that one can go through. However, I was fortunate enough, even though I was in traction and like a cockroach on its back, able only to wiggle its legs, in my case just my hands, I was able to manipulate a keyboard, and with a computer screen I could develop the online materials that I have today. Now, my brain being quite active and being told that I would perhaps be a paraplegic, I had a lot of creative thoughts about how would I be able to be in the classroom without perhaps being able to be in the classroom? How would I be able to travel internationally without physically being able to move from country to country? Online distance education and some of the really cool techniques and technologies that one can employ in an online classroom made all that possible. I don't know why I saw it, but I'm sure it had something to do with 6 months laying in a hospital bed with nothing better to do. Now, in 1994, there wasn't anyone using the World Wide Web to deliver distance education, much less international tax education. So I am the pioneer in that sense. From those roots, from that beginning, here in the year 2013, many years later, 2 decades later, I've managed to serve thousands of alumni, and each year have hundreds of students from all over the world, from many different backgrounds, different regions, different cultural experiences, who come together in an online classroom using video technology, Skype-type communication, audio technologies, even just chat, but establishing deep, meaningful networking professional relationships with each other, and most importantly, walking away from this, in my case, a year-long experiencing being better international tax advisors. I think the future involves hybrid education, where one can effectively leverage the physical brick and mortar resources, but create diversity through distance education modalities. I mean diversity in the classroom, where you can bring in both faculty and students from all over the world who can share ideas, concepts, perspectives, cultural personality. That's what you can do with distance education, where a student can't necessarily afford time financially to, in our case, come to San Diego for an entire year or 4 years to that brick and mortar facility. But for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, a couple months, but using the distance education, you can really create that opportunity for them.